I do have to ask, Aruba is not just a Wi-Fi company. We've spent a lot of time talking about Wi-Fi, but of course we're here at Atmosphere. We heard a lot about stuff that wasn't Wi-Fi, whether it was the lengthy discussion of Pensando and SmartNICs and the CX series and SD-WAN and NetConnect, all of these things. What's your take, panel? Now this is perhaps a more Wi-Fi centric panel, but what's your take on the new Aruba or the new face of networking within Hewlett-Packard Enterprise?
So I think the promise of what Pensando is bringing, at least as I understand, I'm still been digging into it, but I've spoken both, obviously saw some of it here. I brought Pensando into our offices to learn more about what they were trying to accomplish. I know we are having a lot of conversations around security about how do you deal with east-west traffic, and especially as we're building out 100 gigabit and 400 gigabit data centers, right? And that becomes pretty daunting when you want to inspect all that traffic and secure it in an east-west fashion. And sometimes I don't necessarily need to run it through a firewall, but I do want to control where it can go, right? And so firewalls have been the answer. 100 gigabit firewalls are very expensive. 400 gigabit firewalls barely exist, So I do think there's a really interesting, application for that in terms of, how do we manage our data? How do we secure it? It seems like a natural extension of what we've been doing on the access side forever. So on the, I think there's a lot of promise there. Interested more in seeing how it continues to roll out and how it gets executed upon, but the premise is pretty cool.
Was Aruba trying to send us a message by having so much non-Wi-Fi content on stage at the keynotes?
No, I think HPE was.
Yeah.
It was obvious. For every Airheads Atmosphere I've been to, customer first was the rule, and Antonio just said data's first. That was, I thought, a pretty strong statement.
But I think that carries a lot of value. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we care about getting data from one point in the network to the other point in the network. And for a long time, Aruba's infrastructures allowed us very granular controls of the user policies that we assign to different user profiles as well as different device types. And so we had that control in the wireless network. And now we're getting that control. What I joke about is, your routers and switches just simply being the plumbing for your network. And I call a switch a convenient power supply for my access points. It's multi-port power supply. But now we have very granular control over that plumbing. And we can dictate where that traffic flows from location to location. And we can break that down at very granular levels to, even within user profiles, what applications within that profile take one path or another across our WAN link. So I think it's a logical extension of the way data flows through our network, giving us easy control to make that happen. So it's like layer 8 policies from end to end across our network.
Yeah, maybe the answer is, who's the Aruba customer now? Is it the Wi-Fi engineer or is it the networking engineer?
Both, right? I mean, that's what we're needing. I mean, customers are asking for it, and I think, ever since the merger between the two companies, the data center space had lagged behind a little bit, right, with the H3C stuff and those types of things. So, I think Aruba's stating loud and clear, hey, we're here to play in this space. We're here to bring these solutions to our customers. We want to leverage a lot of the investments that have already been made in things like ClearPass and all in the mobility technologies and bringing a different way that might be easier, might end up being more user friendly in the sense of, sometimes these overlays are not simple for customers to adapt.
We did get a deep dive into SD-WAN. Again, I know that this is more of a Wi-Fi centric group of individuals, but Troy just mentioned the value of seeing how SD-WAN makes sense for customers. Are you on board with this? Does this make sense as an Aruba product?
I think it does. To me, it's a logical, like what an SD-WAN device does is very similar to what a controller does, right? All the traffic
You mean gateway?
Yeah, or gateway, sorry. But whatever, I mean, yeah, that box, a lot of it's the same. It's simplifying the network, it's taking a lot of the stuff, and making it easier for the users to consume, working with tunnels, optimizing traffic. To me, it's very natural that those two should be the same box. It makes a lot of sense.
And it does simplify some of the things that for wireless guys were on the edge, and ClearPlast has been ours. And that's on the edge, doing authentication, but it's also building all sorts of tunnels and things that we had to do manually. And the SD-WAN we saw today showed how you can make that, a lot of the wizardry, the automatic stuff happen if we just say, I want this and this, now go do it for me.
And of course, that was another big topic as well, was the idea of wizards and automated infrastructure and so on with Aruba Central and NetConnect. What's your take on all that?
To his point, where he was just talking about, basically, we're kind of doing what Aruba has always been doing. A joke I always have, that I always make is, can somebody please tell me what SD-WAN is? Because that's been out there for years and nobody can give me an answer of what it is. Well, it's a series of this and that, and you do this and an overlay that does, but nobody can really tell me what it is. And in the early days, my joke was Aruba's been doing SD-WAN since the beginning because that's what a controller is, right? It's a software-defined network. We create roles and tunnels and this and that and the other. So in one sense, a lot of what they're doing today is an extension of what they've been doing since the beginning, right? But to me, it's the automation of it, trying to at a high level simplify it, or I should say maybe I don't know, high level, low level, but to kind of simplify it again, like they were saying, to automate these connections between your sites and distribute your policies across your entire WAN. They're taking, okay, we have a controller, we have these APs, we want to give this user a role, or this device a role based on time or authentication or whatever it is. And now we're saying, well, we want to do that in aggregate across our entire across our entire WAN, all our sites connect. So it is a logical extension. So I see that and I appreciate that it's a logical extension. For me, the place where I get in the weeds is the cloud. It's just for me, I've never been satisfied with cloud as a solution. I know there's a big push for cloud, and I hope it works out. But I have a lot of qualms with the whole cloudness of everything that's happening, and I don't know. We'll see where it goes, and maybe I'll be wrong. But
Can you clarify that? Cloud as from a managing infrastructure, cloud as a resource that I'm consuming as a user?
Everything kind of just going into the cloud and being I don't know. It's tough for me because I really don't know how to articulate exactly what I'm feeling. It's just like there's a lot of things that gosh, we've been doing this so long. It's like for us, we like to get our hands on a piece of hardware, and it's like, oh, this thing is made of steel and it's heavy, right? And now we're everything is kind of going away to the cloud, and we're moving to subscriptions and licensing for all kinds of different things, and it's just like it feels, and I know I sound like an angry old man. It was so easy back in my day, and now it's like we have all these. And I was just talking about how they want to simplify things at high level, but at the same time, it just feels like I feel like everything's kind of is being pulled away. It's like everything's becoming like vapors that you can't hold anymore.
I have an example. You'd said it used to be easy. I don't think it used to be easy. I remember a couple of years ago at Atmosphere, Dom was presenting, and he gave a story about when he was a little kid and his family had a restaurant, and if you're out in front in the restaurant and it looks really nice and easy, behind the door, it's crazy in the kitchen. And I found years ago setting up ClearPass was a nightmare. I mean, you had an entire business of setting up ClearPass. the back end's really hard, and then the end user just goes, oh, phone in, I'm associated, I'm secure. So Dom had laid that out that, yes, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the back end. I think part of the move that Aruba's going, what I can sense in this atmosphere compared to previous is, they'd like to abstract that simple out to grow it away. It's not just the kitchen. It's like the entire infrastructure behind that. We want it to be simple. And so the SD-WAN, today, setting up SD-WAN, I used to have to set up all those individual VPN connections individually. Right. Now it's a click button. So, yeah, and in the discussion today we had with the SD-WAN guys, yeah, there's little CLI stuff going on, and it's just automated. And he was like, actually, there's no CLI stuff. It's APIs now. And like, oh, yeah, that's true. And so I think moving away from we're just scripting CLIs to now allowing the APIs to do what they're really supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm totally willing to take the complaint that I'm just an angry old man.
No, I'm going to say, you're not an angry old man. It was presented very badly, and I hate to be that blunt. The first few slides are all about hardware. I mean, this is software, right? And what are we looking at? Boxes, right? And so what we should have been given is not just a UI interface that then maps to hardware. What we should have been given is software components, network functions. What is the architecture? What's the protocol? How does this function come together and work? And the hardware, well, we just maps to that stuff, right? It's just a protocol that interfaces with it. The hardware should have been right down the bottom, little boxes right down the bottom. And in the middle shouldn't have been these big fluffy cloud things, It should have been, this is the architecture. We have these functional components, and this is how they talk to each other. These are the industry standards that we're using to integrate these. These are the proprietary standards that we've implemented. That would have enabled us to understand it, and we would have said, that actually looks like a software-defined network. What we saw was hardware, right? No wonder why we were confused. So you're not angry. It just was badly presented to us. And I hate to be that blunt, and I'm sorry, Aruba, you won't invite me back again. But that was my perspective. You just didn't tell the story right.
Yeah, I'm going to get philosophical here for a moment. So one of the interesting things for me, and I've been doing tech field day events now for almost 13 years, and we've seen this stuff happen. I mean, together, we've seen 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi appear, I remember one of the things that I thought was most interesting about field day for me, was that Gestalt idea of looking at the big picture and understanding the big picture of technology. When I first learned about how Wi-Fi, controller-based Wi-Fi is done, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I thought it was mind-blowing that you've abstracted out the control of the network from the function of the network. The idea that you had a centralized controller, that you treated all these access points not as precious little, things that you're going to configure, but as basically cattle, and you were managing them. This is the cloud philosophy. And as soon as I saw SDN be presented for the first time at a networking field day event, my first thought was, oh, this is just like Wi-Fi controllers. Yeah. You guys thought of it first. Yeah. The first time I saw Kubernetes presented, my thought was, oh, this is just Wi-Fi controllers again. You guys thought of it first. I can understand feeling that a little frustrated about all this stuff, because I'm always frustrated when one discipline doesn't learn from another discipline. But they never do. They just reinvent it again. And they have reinvented it again. So if you're worried about cloud, don't worry. It's just Wi-Fi controllers again. Except instead of being access points, it's containers and virtual machines.
But where's the cloud?
The cloud is just the APs up there, and this is, and so it is really remarkable to see this stuff happen, and to see the kind of light bulb go on when you're listening to SDN or SD-WAN, and you finally, and it clicks in your head, and you say, wait a second, this isn't anything. This is Wi-Fi controllers. These are APs, these WAN endpoints and WAN tunnels and all that. This is exactly what we've been doing. And from my perspective, kind of coming in from the outside and looking at where Aruba's going, my feeling is that Aruba is doing exactly what Aruba has always done, and bringing that kind of abstraction and control to the network. And I think that's a good thing.